Welcome to Candid Creoles, where we elevate and celebrate Haitian excellence and friends. And today we have with us Dominique Dennery. Dominique is a Franco-Ontarian visual artist of Haitian origin. Her professional experience in facilitating social justice dialogues is reflected in her art that integrates Haitian freedom fighters and empowering archetypes. A sculptor, Dominique trained with master sculptor David Clendening at the Ottawa School of Art, and she completed her training with Professor Sarah Chandra Jiwa. Okay, I got it. And curated her first solo exhibition entitled Wood and Identify at Canada House in Colombo, Sri Lanka. So from 2012 to 2015, Dominique studied with master sculptor Philippe Farrell in New York State and Professor Rosemary Brault-Landry in Gatineau, Quebec, with whom she continues to share a studio. In 2015, the city of Gatineau acquired in its permanent collection the bronze bust of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, sculpted by Dominique. I can't wait to hear more about that. And this work allowed her to distinguish herself and to be selected in 2017 by the Haitian Community of Montreal to create a second public work of art in bronze, Toussaint Louverture, as a gift to the City of Montreal for its 375th anniversary. Dominique was recognized in 2018 as one of 100 accomplished Black Canadian women and won the Regroupement Affaires Femmes Diamond Award for Lifetime Achievement, including community work, professional achievements, and artistic accomplishments. She has been a member of the board of the Ottawa Art Gallery since June 2019. Welcome, Dominique.
Merci. Thank you, Isabelle. I'm so pleased to be here, to be a guest on this podcast, Candid Creole.
Yes, it is a pleasure. It's a real pleasure to have you. I have posted about you before on our page when yes, when I found out that the bust of Toussaint Louverture was created by you, and I said, wow, I definitely would love to sit down and talk to you. And we've been trying to get this done for months now, and we finally made it happen. So it's a pleasure to have you. It's a pleasure to have you. So what started you in this path of this artistic path?
I started art because I was a busy mother. Busy professional, busy everything, and everything I did was for other people. Busy spouse, busy, daughter of wonderful parents, etc. And so this was for me. So art was something I started about 25 years ago, maybe more, 30 years ago now, as just a passion, something I did in my spare time. So that was where I began. And then over time, I started to take even more of an interest. And eventually I followed a spouse to overseas, and I had a lot of time on my hands. So that's when I started taking more and more training. I'd taken some training, but you know how life gets busy for us. And but this was an opportunity to do just that for a couple of years, or a good year anyway. And so that's when I did exhibitions, produced like dozens of sculptures. Sculpture is very demanding. There's a lot to it. And so you don't do a lot of sculptures a year, but I was able to do 12 in 1 year.
In 1 year?
Yeah, because I was doing that full time. So when I came back to Canada, that's when I started exhibiting. That's when I started to participate in the art scene and take more training, etc. So it started off as a passe-temps, as something I did for fun, and it turned into a lot more than that. And there's very few women sculptors. So there's a lot of folks who do pottery, who do painting, who do many forms of art, and they're all beautiful. I mean, yes. But there's few of us who choose to do sculpting, which means you do the work in clay, and then you do a cast, And then you go to the foundry and they pour it in wax and then in bronze. And it's a very involved process. You don't always have to do everything in bronze, but if you go for bronze, it takes 6 months, a year, to do some major bronze sculptures. So that's why it's not something you do a lot of. So that's how I started on the journey. And I think what made me more serious about it is when the Haitian community came knocking and said, so first the community in Gatineau and then the community in Montreal, and they said, you sculpt in bronze. We need bronze of our Haitian heroes. We need to celebrate, who we are as the first Black republic in the world. We need to celebrate the people who did the unthinkable all these centuries ago and turned people who had been enslaved into free people. Yes. And so make our past live today and help us create these heroes. So they gave me tons of pictures. Like, you can't imagine the number of faces.
Of different heroes of our past.
Oh mon Dieu. So, it's hard because you're dealing with someone, I'll stay in English. There wasn't any photos then. So what you have is people doing pictures, right? Drawings of these people. And so you have to take all the drawings, and they're all different, and make it, there's one on La Gourde, for Dessalines, for example, and you take all these pictures and you create something that you hope will represent the man. And I have a hat on him and everything. It's very detailed work in bronze.
Yes, I know that.
And then Toussaint Louverture, that one was, again, they gave me all these pictures and said, you figure it out. And give him to us when he's older, more mature, a statesman. Don't give us a younger person, give us an older person. And that's what we have in Montreal, at the Parc Toussaint Louverture.
Le Parc de Toussaint Louverture. C'est où exactement à Montréal?
Boulevard de Maisonneuve à Montréal.
Oui, OK.
So
La prochaine fois que j'y vais, j'aimerais bien y aller.
Oui, big boulevard near the l'UQAM, the University of Quebec in Montreal. And it's in a park that's called Toussaint Louverture Park. Mm-hmm. And then there's a pedestal in marble with a saying, and then you've got the bust on top of that. So those are wonderful opportunities. And then I created my own work, and I've been asked to feature a sculpture I did called Black Man Rising, l'ascension de l'homme noir. And I featured that in a number of exhibitions over the last 3 years. And so, yes, it's been an honor and a pleasure to represent Black excellence and to speak to our history, our present, and our future.
Yes. And you're representing Haitian excellence, which is the name of our group, which is the intention of our group, really, is to celebrate that. And that's exactly what you did with your sculptures. Yeah, that's beautiful. So I've been to Montreal several times. I really like Canada. And so I've visited quite a few times, but I never knew about that park, about Toussaint Louverture.
It's a small park. They tried to get a boulevard named after it, and they weren't successful, but they did get the city to focus on that small piece of land where a lot of Haitian immigrants settled when they first came to Montreal. Mm-hmm. Now they're settling in many, many places. We're a huge community there. But initially they settled in that part of just off of Boulevard Saint-Laurent, in the eastern part of Montreal. And that's where this park is. And what I find absolutely heartwarming is the fact that this work, when you have the young children playing, when you have young boys playing basketball there, young girls playing basketball there, playing anything there, or meetings of the community there, what do we have? We have a bust of a Black man with very curly hair, like we're talking crépus, really beautiful, tight hair, with the features that are African and that is representing us. So who's
in Montreal?
Yeah. statues of Black people anywhere, right? So this outside of Africa or the Caribbean or etc. But there you have a statue of a Black man in the middle of Montreal. So I find that when the young people are going to look up at that and say, someone who looks like me is in bronze in a statue. So
it's right here.
I matter, you know, it's important that
and that's important, you know, that's important for youth, our youngsters to see that, because we didn't have that, you know. Exactly. And it's important for them, like you say, like the l'ascension de l'homme noir. See, it's been how would I say that? It's time. You know, it's as you can see, like there's a quote that I really love that I really love, that I posted live. I was mixing up my words, and it's about like there is nothing that can stop something when the time has come for it.
Nice, I love that.
Yes, nothing that can stop me. I forgot who is it, but who said it. But when I saw that quote, I felt, wow, I love that. I love that.
Nothing that can stop.
I'll get you the exact quote. I'm not quoting it right now. I'm paraphrasing it, but I will definitely.
I love it. And so the time has come. The window of opportunity is now. For sure, it took the lynching of George Floyd and a lot of extremely unfortunate, violent events to get the world to wake up. It happened during a pandemic. Everybody's eyes were screwed on to the screen, and you couldn't escape it. We've had to deal with that forever. All my family's in the US. I'm the only one left in Canada. And, you know, it's we were, you know, from 2014, all the deaths, all the situations, it was clear that it was brutality was becoming a norm in policing in many ways. And so for Canadians, it was like, it's in the US. It's, you know, we're fine. Canadians are very polite in their racism. And so eventually it came home. Everybody went, okay, this is unacceptable. And we see so much work now in diversity and inclusion. I do a lot of work as a consultant in this field, anti-racism, anti-discrimination, genuine conversations about something's wrong with the world that has been created. With white folks on top and the rest of us in this hierarchy, you know, acknowledging colorism, the fact that we make a difference depending on the color of your skin, the hair policing, everything, you know, so it's...
Oh, tell me about the hair thing.
We could talk about that a lot. I was told my hair was unprofessional. So people say, oh, you're lucky you don't have to deal with some of that. Imagine in Canada where you're the only person with a little bit of melamine. And then they go, you know, your hair's really nice when you blow dry it. Oh, you know, your hair. Like, that in the days. Oh, you're having a bad hair day or whatever else, you know. So I think we've come a long way, but I am older and I've lived through the days when as a child people would go like this to see if it rubbed off, or they pulled the hair and gave us a hard time. And then, you know, today it takes other forms. So racism continues to be alive. And how do we fight it? We fight it with what you're doing, positive things where you basically invite people to recognize who we are, what we do, our brilliance. You can't be mediocre when you're Black as a professional. You know, there's a lot of mediocre white people. But for us, they
still have their privileges.
We have to do twice as much. We have to work twice as hard. We have to, you know, be more this, be more
as that. As you're saying that, I remember, I don't know if you used to watch that show. Oh my gosh, Olivia Pope. What's the name of that show? Oh la la. I can't believe she was was it on Netflix?
I'll have to look her up. I'm Canadian, you have to remember.
Yes, but that show is so popular that I'm sure you have it.
I've heard of it. Okay.
Olivia Pope was a fictional character that created by Shonda Rhimes, and the actress who played it was a Black actress, Kerry Washington.
Yes.
And I remember she's Black. The name of the show is Scandal. You know Scandal,
yes.
Right? Okay, scandal. And then her father told her something like that, like, because you are Black, you have to do twice as much than everyone else. And I don't even think he said twice. I think he might have said more. But it's a long time ago, so I'm not exactly sure how the quote goes. But he said you have to do way more than them. Because you here, you think you're there. You're not. You are Black. You always will be. So you have to always seek to do more. And I remember when he said that, I had goosebumps.
And to build on that, it's so you can be popular one moment, or you're in, but the next one, people might gang up on you and say, what are you doing here? Or we want to make room for our own, etc. So we're also conscious of the fact that some of the windows of opportunities that have opened, I haven't seen this much opportunity in 2 generations. Okay. And so some of the opportunities that are open, will they close again? So there's that fear that are we just being tolerated, or is there really inclusion and belonging and equity that's starting to happen?
Well, the way I see it, there will always be some who tolerates with a smile, like you say, politely. They show up politely, but there are some who are really open to the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And saying, like, I didn't know. Like, I remember one time I saw a post about what the people who said I don't see color. And then I responded and I say, well, when you say you don't see color, it's a racist comment, because I want you to see my color. I just want you to accept me for who I am. Saying I don't see color is saying, like, you don't see who I am. It's like, and we know you see, so it's not really a compliment when you say that.
Absolutely not. And it's also acknowledging that we've had to pay attention to all of these things to survive. Because you come in, my parents came from Haiti, they fled Papadoc, so it's a long time ago, and they came, 2 of us were born in Haiti, the rest were born in Canada, and they came here and, to start a new life, if you like. But yes. The issue there is that there's this sense that, you're always an immigrant. I've always been asked all my life in Canada where I'm from. It doesn't matter that I've been here all my life. And it's just, the idea is you don't quite belong, right? So I don't know if it's the same in the US, but there's this sense that you're there, but are you really there?
Well, in the US, the minute that I speak, people hear my accent. And then they always say, where you're from. I don't even have to say anything. The moment I open my mouth, they said, okay, you're not from here.
But you're an American citizen, aren't you? And you contribute to building U.S. And that, why do you have to be a hyphenated? Yeah. Why do you have to be a hyphenated American?
I'm so glad you say that, because I saw somebody. We had somebody talked about that. It's like the U.S. is the only country who hyphenate everyone. It's
I don't think they hyphenate white people.
Well, they hyphenate. Well, they.
Let's say white is the norm. White is considered, this is what, that's normal. And most white people don't learn about racism because they don't have to. They lead a certain life, and it's actually replicated, I think, racism, because they're kept in ignorance unless they reach out and find out and read things and inform and pay attention. They don't have to. They can lead their lives in entirely white suburbs. They can lead entirely white schools. They can do what they do. For us, it's a question of survival. As we come in and we have to watch what happens, we have to navigate those spaces to be able to be successful despite the obstacles that are there. So we have graduate degrees in racism. They have kindergarten degrees, so
if they have any degrees.
They have any degrees, but I shouldn't generalize. There's people who are.
Yes, because that's exactly where I was going with this, because there are people who accept us for who we are. And there are people who love us for who we are. So the George Floyd event opened the eyes of the world for those who want to see, because there are still some who don't want to see and who will never want to see. But there are some who couldn't see, and now they said, oh, I finally see. And there are some who are open to hear because they didn't see it before. It's like, to them, it was normal, whatever it is. It's like, okay, because whatever you're living, I don't see the problem. And I say, well, because you're not paying attention.
Well, and you're not living it. So
and you're not living it. You're not paying attention. You can't see it. You're not living it. So what I hear and see, and I can use myself as an example. I was married to a white man, and I would have conversation with him, and he could not see anything. It is until George Floyd, and he was married to a black woman, and he has 3 black kids. It's when George Floyd happened, we had the conversation. And then he said, I finally see what you were saying.
Nice.
And for years, I could not understand why he couldn't see. Because I said, you're married to me and I'm telling you our experience and you still can't get it.
And that's part of racism. It's the idea that our experiences are not so, like don't have a value onto themselves, that it has to be corroborated by other people's opinions, that kind of thing. So I think we're starting to listen to the lived experience. I do a lot of work in this area as a consultant, anti-racism consultant in Canada, supporting people in opening their eyes, watching, seeing, and then doing something different. Because they say, oh, it's in the past. You should forget that. It's been generations. The past lives now in all the laws, all the ways in which things are done, even real estate in your profession, how certain neighborhoods were redlined, whatever.
Yes, so redlining exists.
It's still alive. The past is still alive today.
So we have a lot of work to do. And the good thing is, what started it is an unfortunate situation. However, I always say things happen for a reason we don't know. Yeah. People, and that's a spiritual lesson for me. It's like people are being used for a reason we don't know, because who would have thought that would be who would have opened the eyes of the world is George Floyd.
Right. And did you hear his daughter said, my father changed the world?
Yes, his daughter said that.
Oh, that gives me goosebumps, right?
And that's true. He lost his life, but his life was not lost for nothing.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So what got you, I know you are very passionate about this subject. What got you into that subject?
My parents fled Duvalier. We came to Canada, and we were it. In Ottawa, I think there were my parents, and there was maybe Myrta Lapierre, a couple of people of Haitian descent, but otherwise we were it. So the idea was, being proud of who we were, even though we were different from others. I come from a family where both my parents are Haitian, but because they're from the South, some of us are lighter, some of us are medium, some of us are dark, and we're all the same siblings. There's 6, there was 6, there's one who passed away, but 5 of us siblings. And it was always a question of being proud of who we were. So because of that sensitivity, and the idea that of being conscious of who we were, of being able to say we're Black and we're proud, and things that people didn't say in the 60s, 70s, whatever, in Canada particularly, made us into some social justice advocates. They're, most of my siblings are very, very aware, and they go to the US and they've done very well there, and speak out and speak for others, because I had the privilege of being raised by parents who then were able to take their professions and be doctors in Canada. I was able to have a certain education, to learn French and English, and to have a lot of things given to me. Privilege is what you don't have to go through. So there's a number of things I didn't have to go through. So my responsibility is to speak for those who might not have the privilege I have, and who might be received a different way, and because they don't speak the way I do, because they don't have that color skin, their skin is darker or anything else, and then for me to speak out, not on their behalf, but just to say, wait a minute, what's going on here? This person was speaking, this one next. We want to hear from you and validate all of our experiences. So it's a responsibility I take to heart. My son married a Jamaican, lovely daughter-in-law. So my granddaughter is half Haitian, half Jamaican. And that's quite the mix, huh? So I'm doing this. I'm doing this for Celeste. Celeste and her tiny curls. Celeste and her attitude. Celeste and her energy already at 1 year of age. I don't want her to go through what my parents went through, what we're going through, or I want her to have a different life. I don't want her to always be fighting against upstream. I want her to, show up the way she is and express herself and be received in that way too. So that's what keeps me going, is changing, that experience for our grandchildren too.
Yeah, definitely. So I understand why what got you on that path, definitely. And you mentioned also, I want to make sure I covered that. I know at the beginning of every conversation, I like to ask people, what's your connection with Haiti? And I know you mentioned that your parents had to basically run away from the Duvalier because were they into politics? Because you were born in Haiti?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was born in Haiti, and my father was part of youth movements then. To basically for democracy. They were totally inspired by Cuba and other places like that, and wanting to establish that for Haiti. He came from a bourgeoisie family, but he had these socialist ideals, and I know it's a bad word in the US to say socialist, but not so much in Canada. And my mother, they were both in medical school, and they did strikes, they did all kinds of things to try to shift things in those days.
In Haiti?
Yes, in Haiti.
Under Duvalier.
Yes, so they were, they weren't like freedom fighters like other people, but they did what they did, with their conscience. And my mother had some brothers who were imprisoned, we never saw again, who were taken away by the Tonton Macoute. And then my father decided we were all going to emigrate to Canada because he didn't want to live segregation. So he didn't want us to live in the south of the US and be at the back of buses and live that experience. He says, no. We're Haitian, we're proud, we're going to go to Canada, where we now proceed to freeze to death. But anyway, it's really cold right now. but he said, we're going to Canada instead of the US. The whole family, all his family, my mother's family, all went to the US. But we came to Canada because my father decided that we had a better chance in the Great White North. But then, we experienced racism here too. And my siblings, who all were born here, decided they were going to go to the US because even though in the US racism can be more in your face, more difficult, there's a community. They said, we'd rather live in a place where there's a community of Black people, where there's a bigger number, we can be given a chance, rather than continue in a place where we're always a very small minority at the time. Now it's changing. But so I stayed because I married a Frenchman and I wanted to live in French. And so I decided to stay in Canada and make my life here. My parents stayed in Canada. I was there for them as well. And so when, my siblings followed, one of them who went to Howard and graduated from there, and the rest came along, and all of them went to the US after that.
Okay. You also mentioned you've been in Sri Lanka.
Yes, Sri Lanka is because I was, my second husband was Haitian. And so he was with the Canadian Diplomatic Corps, and we ended up being posted overseas. So Sri Lanka was one of the posts, Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast was another post, so did a couple of posts that way. And so it was something I'd never experienced, but it gave me an opportunity to do art, which I never would have had a chance to do. I was bored there because I've always been a professional woman, and I ended up with all these ladies who do lunch, lovely people, but they're basically wives, and I needed a little more stimulation.
So that's how you started, yeah.
Yeah, and I did blogging, and I gave programs to NGOs, nonviolent communications. I did all kinds of things because worked with an orphanage, with young pregnant women, all kinds of interesting projects because I had the time to do that.
Yeah. You've definitely have a lot of your life took many different turns Yes.
Yes. Well, we have one life. We don't have a rehearsal. So
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe there's more lives. I don't know. But with one life, you want to make the best of it. And if there's something you haven't tried, try it. We're absolutely brilliant as Black people. I call us diamonds because with all the pressure we have, we're really, that's how diamonds are born. It's through pressure, right? And we get all this pressure. And so we have so much to offer. The thing is, the trauma that we carry, the experience that we have can be in the way as well. So I have started a number of programs in terms of healing as well from some of that trauma, storytelling, or through art, through music, through different ways in which we can reconnect with who we are, more Afrocentric ways as well, and develop our leadership in whatever professional arena that we're in.
And I know you're talking about your consulting business,
yes,
right? Yes. And when did you start that?
1995.
What took you to that path?
So I started out as an employee, and then I worked for a large consulting firm, and then I set up my own consultancy. And it's been in human development, talent development. So I'm a coach, I'm a certified coach, I'm a certified management consultant. I've got all these certifications as we tend to do when we want to be taken seriously and in a world that doesn't take us seriously necessarily. And I proceeded to set up a group and support governments at different levels and international work. And so I've done both. I've done the art and the consulting at the same time. Yeah.
Okay. So you basically, your clientele for your consulting business are all business people that you
they're
are they entrepreneurs or are they like you work for corporation or you're working with single entrepreneurs?
I work with the public sector. So I work for the federal government, provincial government, municipal government, the City of Ottawa, for example, or I'll work for different departments, immigration and refugees, the Department of Justice. There's different organizations within the federal government that I support as a consultant. Initially more around talent management, and now more and more anti-racism and anti-discrimination and supporting fair and equitable workplace, equitable, and also supporting healing and healing circles and supporting people who have gone through difficulties in workplaces. Some of them are toxic, and I also work with nonprofit. So I have, there's the rate for the government, like Robin Hood, and the rate for the nonprofit because there are, my people. So I support a number of nonprofits in the work that I do with them as well.
Okay. So that's your business, and then you do sculpt. You've done so much in sculpting. It's not really a side thing. It seems like it's almost a full-time job as well.
It became
a full-time passion. It's not a job. It's a passion.
It's a passion. But Isabelle, it became heavy at one point because when you start to do commissions, it becomes a job. So the work itself, doing the sculpting, is fantastic. What a blessing to be able to do that and serve my community. And when I start to do the industrial process that goes with that, it's a job. And you have to deliver it on time, on budget. You have to pay everyone who goes with that. So thank God I'd been a consultant for most of my life because I was able to take that skill in art, right? And so there was a point where it stopped being fun. I can't explain it otherwise than to say that. And so I've gone back, I've scaled back with the art, and I'm doing more of what I just feel like doing, and less of this very serious business I did for, maybe 10, 15 years out of those years I sculpted.
Okay. So for now, so that when you say scale back, like you put like kind of like a foot on the brake?
Yeah. I think, at my age right now, what I'm looking at is I don't have to search for what I'm going to do when I retire. You know how people, they don't know what they're going to do with themselves when they have 365 Sundays or Saturdays and they've retired? For me, I know already that I can go back to my art. So I think right now, with the window of opportunity for anti-racism, etc., that's where I need to be. That's where I can support as an elder, as someone who, is 60 plus. I can support the younger generations. I can support the younger professionals. I can guide. I can coach. I can mentor. I can sponsor. I can facilitate tough conversations. I have the life experience and the skills and the training to be able to help. Why would I retire? So right now, it's a time to support our community. That's why I'm doing that. And I've put the art on a bit of a back burner, saying I can always come back. I'll always be an artist. It's something I'm passionate about.
Yeah, definitely get that. So what continues to inspire you?
My granddaughter. But it's the younger generations. It's, oh my God, they're so smart. And they're so woke, as you say in the US. These folks will change the world. For me, that's if we can set a good example, if we can support them in whatever way we can, then we can move out of the way. My mother used to say that there's a point where move out. It's time for others, and move to the side. Doesn't mean go retire and golf all day or whatever people want to do, but it is you move to the side, let them take center stage, and then you can support them and say, don't do that because, it might not lead you to the right direction. Yeah. People in the majority groups, the white groups, have had those kinds of mentors and supports and models, very much so. We haven't. So it's, we're starting to, and there's more and more of them. And it's like, wow, so it is an opportunity to guide the next generation. So that's what excites me. That's what keeps me motivated. And people say, you're 60 something, really? And then I say, it's the energy. Yes, my body, sometimes I'm tired, but the energy is there to support, because I see an incredible opportunity now to.
Yeah, and we get to hear new ideas with, when like you said, when we give them the space, they're coming with fresh ideas and fresh opportunities to create as well for all.
That's right. Right.
That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. And how old is how young? I don't like to say how old. How young is your granddaughter?
She's 14 months.
Oh, wow.
And she already has a following on Instagram. So because she's Haitian and Jamaican, she moves well. And so, she's sleeping. She had an 80,000 or 100,000, I don't know, views on an Instagram, where she's waking up to music and she's still sleeping. She gets up and she goes, oh, and she moves and she falls right back to sleep. She's got she loves music. She's got a wonderful sense there. She's also able to say some words and all that at one. I find that generations now, they are much more advanced. They're much more stimulated. There's the computer.
It's like they're born differently.
This kid wants to grab my phone and knows how to shrink things, and she's 14 months. So I think we're going to see a whole wave of young people who will say no to the way the world has been organized so far. And here's what we need to do to save our planet, to support equity where people have been pushed down. Bring them back up. You can't say compete until you help people come back from everywhere they've been pushed down, and they will speak their minds, and they will show up in ways that are pretty powerful. So I'm counting on them to make this.
Definitely, because many of us have been pushed back, but down. Many of us have actually lifted themselves up as well, because we would have thought that in my time, I would have seen the United States with a Black president.
Oh, we loved him in Canada more than you guys did.
Yeah.
You love ours more than we do, and we loved yours, Obama. No? We won't
Yes,
mention
yes.
whatever
I get it.
happened
I
to
get it.
careers.
So it,
But you
yes.
know, we loved Obama so much in Canada. We created cookies to his name in Ottawa.
Oh my.
It was a real, you know, he
But
was special to us. Yes.
when you think about it, though, I am an avid reader, so I read his book. I'm actually reading his biography, which is The Promised Land, A Promised Land. I'm on it's a big book. Actually, you can see it behind me if you can see
Okay.
behind me. Yeah, it's
Okay.
right here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, here it is. It's a big book. It's a really big book. Here it is. And you see how thick it is?
Yep. I haven't
Yes.
tackled that one. I looked at the first one, and Michelle's book too, but I haven't looked at that one. Okay.
I love biographies. I love biographies, and I'm fascinated with biographies. I mean, I read a lot. I read a lot of books that are not that are self-development books. But biographies to me, it's like you are really I'm passionate about it because it's like you're having a conversation with the author about its life, his or her life, you know. So, or biographies or memoirs. It's like, to me, you learn so much from those. It's I had my son, one of my sons, who read with me sometimes, and we were reading together Nelson Mandela.
Oh yes.
Yeah, another long story also, but that's a man that I admire. Truly admire, because of the path that his life took to go to jail for 25 years, and he did not come out with a vengeance in his heart. To me, that's admirable.
Absolutely.
Because many times I hear our people, Haitian people, talk about what they've done to them, what they have not done to them, and I'm saying, I get it, but anger is not going to lead you to the solution.
No. Anger is drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Beautiful. So anger is doing more harm to you.
It hurts you more.
But some anger is important. I'll say that and maybe say the opposite because I find anger fuels.
It can fuel you. It can fuel you.
Change. It's just if it's a constant low-grade anger, it does eat you up like poison. But the anger created everything we saw in your country in terms of social change. You know, everything we're seeing here in my country that's related to social change. People say, we won't take this anymore. This is unacceptable, and start to change the world. I went to the Black Lives Matter walk, and, you know, it was in the middle of a pandemic, and people around me say, you can't be walking with all those people. We didn't know at the time what the pandemic, you know, would be like. We didn't even have masks or anything in those days. It was the early days. And I said, this is more important. I'm not saying that as a sacrifice or whatever. It's just I felt it was really important to go and show support and say, you know, we matter.
That's healthy.
Our lives matter.
No,
yeah. So it's a healthy outlook. Outpour of anger and to build something new.
Yeah, you can definitely use that and then it in a healthy way. It's the constant of complaining that's, to me, becomes not healthy, instead of just taking action toward the future, or whatever it is in the present toward the future. So it's you gotta be careful what type of anger you're nurturing within.
With many of the groups I work with, there's venting or anger is a natural part of the process. So it's just, you don't want to stay there, as you say, Isabelle. It's not about making it your whole way you express is always anger. The idea is, understand that you live in a very imperfect world that wasn't built for you or with you or for you, and that a lot of it needs to change. But then you may want to make changes long term, but in the meantime, you have to adapt. So how are you going to adapt to what's going on around you? And that's where we can then take all of these feelings that we have and say, okay, what can I influence? How can I get behind the wheel of my own car? How can I take charge again And often what will basically fuel a lot of the folks I work with, and myself included, is to do something for others. So there's the idea of, we live in a society that's very individualistic, where it's all about how you can get ahead and you can get more likes and followers and you can do this, get rich and do that. But it's also, what's important and sustainable is when you do things that are bigger than you. Then you start to experience a feeling of accomplishment when you're trying to change something in your world, and supporting others. Peer groups are important as well, and doing things with our bodies, with our hands, like I did with art. It's something that really helped me through tough times in my life, to be creating art. So all these things are there to help our well-being and our development, as Black professionals.
Yeah. So what's next for Dominique?
I can tell you're passionate about biographies, because you're doing this show, right? where you're focusing on people's lives and motivations, and what they.
I must tell you, I was sharing that with you earlier. The reason I created this is really to bring. There are so many. The narrative about us has been so negative, like the illness that they say we bring to this country.
Oh, yes.
It's and then the what they say we are, who they say we are. It's so they don't know us. And yes, we have a country that is in turmoil, but it's didn't get there just like that. Exactly. And but it's so, to me, it's like when you're looking at the media, the first thing they say when they talk about Haiti is the poorest country of the Western Hemisphere. Instead, why they could change the narrative to say something else. They can say, well, the first Black Republic, but they don't say that.
No.
They're focusing on the negative. So I decided it's like, it's up to us to show the world who we are, and change the narrative, because this is what I'm doing. And I appreciate when people like you, who are descendants of Haitians, people who are Haitian, people who were born in Haiti like you were, and we all come together, and friends also, because the platform is open to friends of Haiti as well, because we have many friends who are not Haitian, whether it's Spanish people, white people, African people, Jamaican people, whoever they may be coming from. The platform is open to them as well, to have a conversation about who we are, the one who knows us. So yes, so I'm very interested to know, like, what's next for Dominique.
So one thing to say about the Friends of Haiti is there's many, many people who admire Haiti around the world. So yes. The history may not be known in North America, where it was suppressed in many ways. But if you go to Africa, and Africa's huge, but you go to West Africa and you speak about Haiti, you go to Central America, South America, you speak about Haiti. A lot of the folks know what Haiti did to help their own countries gain independence. Exactly. And know what kind of model Haiti was. So, yes. and continues to be, because we're super resilient. One thing we can say about Haitian is we're resilient, right? So, so for me, what's next, I would say, there's a project that I started talking to you about in terms of empowerment, resilience, healing for Black professionals. So it's something that I've started, that I'm doing with Black paralegal professionals very soon. I've got another group of people, different professions, and we're engaging in these conversations over term to support people in empowering themselves, and also leading, and also their resilience and well-being, mental health, well-being, all of that. So that's what's next for me on the professional front. I'd like to devote the last years of my career at supporting Black people, racialized possibly, but Black first, in professional environments, and helping them with shortcuts to success. On the art side, for me, it's mentoring young artists. I've sponsored, mentored a number of young Haitian artists, and other young artists in Ottawa. And for me,
can you give us a couple names?
And so one of them, for example, Lorena Phineas. Oh mon Dieu, qu'elle est extraordinaire. So Lorena does scenes of Haiti, but it's a mix of past, present, future, and it's figurative art. And so she did a mural, huge mural at the Ottawa Art Gallery. I pushed her a bit, saying, you can do this, and is now applying for a number of universities. I won't name them because, for a master's in fine arts program, for example. You know,
donc, elle est au Canada, alors, elle vit au Canada.
Oui, elle vit au Canada, mais elle a fait une demande pour l'université à New York et une autre à Montréal. Elle est à Toronto en ce moment, mais ça, c'est une des jeunes que j'ai soutenues. Il y a d'autres artistes comme Kalkedan Asefa, ou bien il y a un autre francophone aussi. Il y a plusieurs jeunes qui sont up and coming. Am I speaking French? Okay, English now. So they're up and coming, and
parlez les deux, ça ira.
and c'est des artistes qui sont extrêmement talentueux, okay, et qui n'ont pas nécessairement de plateforme ou qui sont moins connus ou qui n'ont pas de réseau. Donc, l'idée, c'est de pouvoir les connecter, les aider dans la mesure de mes moyens. Et quand on m'a demandé de siéger au conseil d'administration de la galerie d'art, j'en ai profité pour justement faire des consultations sur l'antiracisme dans les institutions artistiques pour aller chercher des gens dans le réseau, des Noirs, des artistes noirs, pour les amener. Je travaille avec le Centre national des arts aussi pour les arts de la scène et aller diversifier ça, amener des artistes noirs dans ces environnements-là également. Donc, c'est chaque fois que j'ai l'occasion d'aider des jeunes, l'idée, c'est de le faire, de profiter du fait que les gens nous écoutent pour les faire prêter attention à des jeunes voix. Et j'aide souvent ces gens-là à faire des présentations, à se mettre de l'avant. Parce que surtout dans nos cultures, on a un peu peur parfois.
Oui, la culture haïtienne comme ça un peu, parce que je sais qu'avec mes parents, on a un peu peur d'entreprendre quelque chose on ne sait pas où ça va nous mettre, où cela va nous mettre.
Et c'est des bonnes raisons parce qu'on a déjà été brûlés, hein.
C'est ça.
Mais c'est aussi parce qu'on nous a dit qu'il fallait être modeste. OK?
Oui.
On n'est pas censé se vanter. Et là, tous les gens autour de nous sont là en train de dire, j'ai fait ci, j'ai fait ci, j'ai fait ça. Et puis nous, on dit, c'est rien, c'est pas grave, non, c'est pas. Et alors, moi, je suis obligée de les prendre puis de dire, non, c'est beaucoup. Like,
c'est bien.
Go for it, you know.
Est-ce que les artistes noirs, ce sont des Haïtiens seulement ou bien
non? On a une association qui s'appelle the Ottawa Black Collective. Arts Collective, OBAC, Ottawa Black Arts Collective. Et j'ai beaucoup travaillé avec eux pour qu'ils puissent devenir un interlocuteur avec les différentes galeries pour to feature Black artists and their art. So Alan André is another extremely talented Haitian artist who does huge paintings, who's won a number of art battle competition and who's part of OBAC, and the list goes on, you know, but it's really important to always speak for, not for them, speak on their behalf. Yes. And make space for them to speak and bring their work forward.
Comme on dit, chez nous, ou c'est qu'on coup marraine,
Oui, moi je suis une marraine, absolument. Like it's, you know, a lot of folks have made it because they had les marraines, les parrains, tout ça. Mais les gens, les nôtres ont besoin de ça aussi. Oui, alors, pour ceux qui sont ça, moi, ça fait longtemps que je suis là, que je navigue ce système, que je trouve des moyens de survivre, et pas seulement de survivre, mais d'exprimer et de m'épanouir. Donc, je veux tracer la voie pour les plus jeunes et pour moi, c'est quelque chose qui me motive, comme tu disais, pour bien des raisons. Alors, donc, c'est ça ce qui m'attend pour l'avenir et autrement, peut-être que je te contacterai pour l'immobilier, pour me trouver dans un endroit plus chaud,
On a beaucoup de Canadiens en Floride. Ils viennent tout le temps.
Oui, alors, quelque part, mais je veux être avec une communauté diverse. Je veux pas être dans un enclave
bien
de
sûr.
Canadiens.
Bien sûr.
Mais au chaud, à la chaleur. Si j'avais le choix, ce serait Jacmel. Maman était de Jacmel, papa d'Écailles. Et si on avait eu d'autres circonstances dans notre petit pays, ça fait à Jacmel, moi.
Le mois dernier, j'ai eu une entrevue avec la mairesse d'Écailles.
Oui, j'ai vu ça.
Je ne sais pas si tu as vu ça.
J'ai vu que tu avais.
OK. Parce qu'elle avait un message, je lui ai demandé quel était le message. Elle m'a dit, donc, Haïti est rentré chez vous. Elle a dit, les cailles, c'est pas la même chose. Ce qui se passe à Port-au-Prince, se passe pas aux cailles.
C'est différent dans le sud. Mes parents sont du sud et il y a des coins qui sont vraiment très bien. Mais ma mère, c'était une famille, les Leroy. Les Leroy avaient des grandes terres dans Jacmel qui allaient de la mer à la montagne. Et ça doit être dans mon sang quelque part. Papa, des cailles, la plage de gelée, tout ça. Il y a eu plein de dégâts avec les tremblements de terre, les différents ouragans, tout. Mais le sud, c'est là que j'y reste. Mes parents sont du sud et les gens ne savent pas que le sud a quand même des belles choses à offrir.
Bien sûr, c'est ce qu'elle nous disait. Elle a dit aussi qu'il y a tant d'opportunités, tu sais, et si les Haïtiens voulaient revenir et pour investir au pays, mais tout le monde a peur à cause de ce qui se passe à Port-au-Prince, parce que je lui ai demandé, et tu ne penses pas que ce qui se passe à Port-au-Prince peut aussi arriver aux Cailles? Elle m'a dit non, et ça ne va pas arriver. Donc, qui sait? Donc, mais c'est ce qu'elle a dit. Elle est la mairesse des Cailles. Donc, mais elle a dit non, et les Cailles, c'est bien. C'est bien.
Elle établit une agence, Isabelle, d'immobilier dans le... Et puis, on s'organisera, on achètera des terrains. Et puis là...
Bien sûr, parce qu'il y a tant d'Haïtiens qui aimeraient, sinon retourner au pays ou bien aller en vacances.
Oui.
Parce que moi, j'aurais bien aimé aller en vacances assez souvent.
Oui.
Si c'était possible, c'est ça. Donc, ça fait vraiment plaisir. C'était vraiment une très belle conversation avec toi. Et il y a une question que j'aime toujours poser, cette question à la fin de notre conversation Candid. Et peux-tu me décrire ta vie en un mot?
Passionnariat. Les gens m'appellent la passionnée. C'est l'idée de pas laisser des coins non explorés, d'aller chercher tous ces talents, d'essayer, de risquer, d'oser et avec passion.
C'est bien. Et ça fait longtemps que tu es retourné en Haïti récemment ou non?
Non, pas récemment. Je devais y aller, puis comme
Mais tu connais le pays quand même. Tu connais le pays?
Je connais le sud et Port-au-Prince. Je connais pas le nord, je connais pas plein d'endroits. Parce que quand je suis allée, j'ai vu simplement Port-au-Prince, puis ensuite le sud, d'où sont mes parents. Ouais.
D'accord. Donc, pourrais-tu me décrire Haïti en un mot?
Wow. Racine et spiritualité.
Spiritualité?
Mon âme reste haïtienne.
Ah, d'accord.
J'ai beau avoir le blablabla d'une Canadienne. Ce que je ressens, c'est ça. Et c'est pour ça que je pense qu'on est venu me chercher pour faire des œuvres d'art qui représentent Haïti. Ils ont dit, oui, tu es de la diaspora, mais il y a quelque chose qui vibre là comme artiste.
Ouais, c'est bien. Et quel conseil que tu pourrais donner aux Haïtiens?
Ben, tout le monde a des professions différentes. C'est vraiment de trouver quelque chose qui nous passionne et de se perfectionner dans ce qu'on fait et d'oser. Parce que je pense on a tendance à faire attention parce qu'on sait que si on ose et qu'on tombe, qu'on innove, on risque d'être jugé plus durement que les autres. Mais si on n'ose pas, il y en a plein qui osent. Moi, je regarde ce qui se passe chez vous aux États-Unis, c'est extraordinaire, hein? Alors, oser, c'est le moment maintenant de vraiment tenter des choses qu'on a peut-être hésité à tenter. par le passé.
D'accord. Thank you again. Thank you.
You're
Merci.
very welcome. I'm glad we went to French. It was nice.
Oui, c'est bien, c'est bien. J'aime mélanger quand la personne peut parler les deux. Donc, c'est bien si tu peux parler le créole aussi. Et parfois, j'ajoute un peu de créole aussi, si possible. Et, je te remercie beaucoup. I'm really thankful for this moment. And I want to say, is there one last thing? I would like also for people to know where to reach you. I know you have a consulting business. If there are any clients that may be interested or may be interested in your business, so if you want to let them know where to reach you, your website, your social media handles.
I think the best thing is to reach me through LinkedIn if you're a professional, because that's where my focus is. So Dominique Dennery, as you see it spelled on the screen, is you look me up on LinkedIn and send me an invitation, and I'm very happy to not only say yes, but connect you with other professionals. I don't have a lot of followers, maybe 1,500, 1,600, something like that. So it's not like 10,000 or whatever, but these are all people I know. So there's no one there I don't really know. And I connect. I'm a connector. I like to connect people because I'm at an age where it's really about supporting others, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's great. That's great.
So that's the best way to reach me. And you can see what I do as well in terms of mental health support, resilience, all of that on my LinkedIn profile. My website is under construction.
Yes, it is.
And then my art site is called medusasculptures.com. And it's about archetypes that were scary, but it's really not that. And so people can also look at my art that way. But if you search me on social media, Dominique Dennery, lots of stuff come up, and it'll lead you in different directions. And I'm always happy to connect with folks. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I don't do Twitter much, but look me up, and I'm happy to connect.
I have one question for you. I actually wanted to ask you about archetype. What led you to go to that, to focus on archetype, the different archetypes?
My mother was a psychiatrist. And so I was very curious about the human psyche. I didn't want to become a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And what I'm doing now is very similar, but always fascinated by what are the influencers that are not conscious that we have? So there's things that are common to a lot of humanity when they think of what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. And we've been brainwashed to think that a lot of the powerful feminine figures are evil. So they're either very innocent and they drown, or they're evil. And I started looking into that and realizing that the same way things were changed for anything Black became bad and violent and bad things about it, the same thing was done with a lot of the female archetypes. So when I brought all that, I just kind of looked at it and said, something's wrong with this picture. And so eventually I discovered what the archetypes meant thousands of years ago by going back, archaeology, history, and then saying, hey, Medusa was an ancient divine feminine figure, not a bad person who turns you to stone. Icarus, for me, is he rises up. And maybe he was trying to rise above his condition, and then they picture him falling to his death. So there's a lot of lessons in legends and archetypes that are about bringing us down and saying that we're less worthy and we don't matter. And I said, So I started to sculpt things that are seen as not good and turning them into what they were meant to be hundreds or thousands of years ago, and saying maybe if we shift that, we might be able to shift. What was it, Bob Marley who said mental slavery? Maybe we can shift and become more empowered as we connect with empowering archetypes empowering historical figures. You talk about biographies, right?
Yeah.
Empowering figures everywhere that look like us.
And create the identity that you choose.
That's right.
That's it. That's
that
it. I have read
that we were created. It's not what we were told we were. Mm-hmm. We're much more powerful than that. So can we reconnect with, Wakanda forever?
Yes, Wakanda, right? And remember who we are. Remember who you are. It's like remember I have my mentor. I have my mentor, like I really like this guy, and he said, sometimes, because we all have those thoughts that take us somewhere we don't want to go. And he said, then I have that thing that I tell myself, remember who you are. Exactly. Remember who you are. So there was a book by Carol and Miss. I don't know if you know her, The Language of Archetypes.
Yes.
And I've read her book. I've read her books, and that's why I was curious that what led you to that path, because I am curious about that. I found it fascinating.
We'll have to have another conversation on Black spirituality and Afrocentric spirituality and practices and all that, because I think that's where we can find some of our strength. So yes, I'm not saying no, religion is part of it. Some of the religions were the religions of the white people who colonized us or enslaved us. And there's many different religions that have the concept of God. I believe in God. I think it's important to have that idea. And the way it's exercised, is it really empowering us? Is it really supporting us in loving us? Caring for us, being compassionate towards it. Not always. Sometimes it's vengeful. Sometimes it's, negative. So for me, it's. I'm not going to change the world around that. I'm not a theological person, but I am very passionate about empowerment, resilience. And apparently I have a little bit of Dessalines blood in me. And remember that Toussaint was born on the Dennery plantation, around Dennery, the town of Dennery at the time. And he was called François Dominique Toussaint Louverture, and my name is Dominique Dennery. There must be something there.
There must be some connection there. You're going to claim it. Whether there is or not, you're claiming it.
Right.
Donc, c'est vraiment bien. Donc, je te remercie d'avoir ajouté cette petite partie-là et de parler des archetypes. Thank you again. And as always, I like to say thank you to all, and thank you for being our audience. Thank you to the audience, and thank you for being our guest. And I always like to say peace for Haiti, love for Haiti, and blessings for all.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Merci, Dominique. Merci. À la prochaine.
À la prochaine, Isabelle.
D'accord. Bye-bye.